This weekend marks April Fool's Day, that annoying time when all your friends and trusted media sources go out of their way to lie to you. There have been a lot of memorable video game-related pranks over the years, but few are more iconic than what Electronic Gaming Monthly gave us between 1991 and 2008. Today I want to take you on a journey through all the fake cheat codes, game reviews, and system announcements that grace the pages of EGM. Buckle up, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. Our journey begins all the way back in Electronic Gaming Monthly's 21st issue. This was the same issue that brought us a 16-page spread on the Atari Lynx, a glowing review of Shadow Dancer, and the very first pictures of Street Fighter II. This 1991 issue was also the first time EGM unleashed their devilish side and fooled readers with their fake April Fool's Day prank. You see, the brilliance of this first joke is that it was small and hidden away amongst a bunch of perfectly valid cheat codes. If you jumped through a bunch of hoops that included hitting the reset button a bunch of times, alternate pressing buttons on two different controllers, and then finish things off by pressing up, down, left, right, BA, select up, down, left, right, BA, and then select again, you'll supposedly be able to unlock Simon Belmont in the NES smash hit Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. There were a couple of easy tip-offs that this code was fake, and I'm not just talking about the ridiculously complicated code. If you're observant, then you probably already noticed that the character photoshopped into that Turtles game is actually Trevor Belmont, not Simon. The code was also from somebody named AP Real Fools. Of course, this led to both delight and confusion from readers, and thus an EGM tradition was born. Now, after testing the waters with the Mutant Turtles, Electronic Gaming Monthly followed it up with what is arguably the most well-known video game prank of all time. Let me set the stage. The year is 1992, and Street Fighter II is not just the most popular arcade game, it's a phenomenon. It's so big that EGM found a way to feature the Capcom fighter on the cover of almost every issue that year. So try to imagine the excitement when the editors of EGM uncovered a way to unlock the long-rumored character named Sheng. This was the biggest cheat code of 1992. Of course, you didn't stand a chance of actually pulling off this insane code. To unlock the mysterious fighter, you had to make it through the game using Ryu and never take any damage. Once you've made it to the end, you're supposed to spar with M. Bison without hitting each other for, get this, 10 rounds. That's right, the idea is to run out the clock against the hardest character in the game a total of 10 times. Supposedly, Sheng will eventually come out and take on Ryu, forcing a fight to the death with an extra special ending. This surprisingly convincing code not only conned gullible readers, but also editors at a number of foreign magazines. As unlikely as it sounds, this Sheng trick was reprinted as fact all around the world and led to quite a bit of confusion. That's a pretty strong argument for why this Street Fighter II tip is the greatest April Fool's joke ever played on gamers. So, how do you top the greatest fake code of all time? When you're Electronic Gaming Monthly, you don't even try. Take a look at this picture and see if you can find the joke. I'll wait. Give up? What you're looking at is a list of new games supposedly hitting store shelves in April of 1993. This includes a lot of real games people are excited about, like Out of This World and Sega's X-Men game. But take a closer look, because at the bottom right is a list of fake Atari Jaguar games, like Virtua Pong 64, Adventure 1990X, and Yar's Revenge 2. That's it. That's the whole joke. After all the fake codes and photoshopping, this 1993 joke was just lame. It also wasn't that outlandish, since Atari spent a lot of time updating classic arcade games like Defender, Tempest, and Missile Command. Is it really that hard to believe that they'd try to update Pong? I mean, Supersonic Software released a Pong sequel on PlayStation only 6 years later, and Atari themselves published a Yar's Revenge reboot in 2011. This joke was more prophetic than funny. Unfortunately, this is where we enter what can only be considered the dark years of April Fool's Day jokes. EGM didn't run a prank in their 1994 issue, though later claimed that the Streets of Rage 3 typo on the cover of issue 57 was actually the joke. In 1995, EGM accidentally credited Nintendo for creating Sonic and Knuckles. Although this was clearly just a typo or a formatting issue, they once again tried to pass it off as an April Fool's joke. Clearly, this wasn't fooling anybody, and the magazine didn't even bother making something up for 1996. Maybe that's for the best. The next great prank came in 1997, when Electronic Gaming Monthly decided to recycle their most famous April Fool's trick and hope nobody noticed. Of all the things they could have done with the just-released Street Fighter III, EGM decided to publish a cheat code that unlocks Shenlong. Again. How original. Look, I get it. There are probably people out there that fell for it because it's crazy to think that a magazine might try to fool you with the same exact trick. But EGM is that kind of crazy. Or maybe lazy, I haven't decided yet. The problem is that the joke wasn't memorable the second time around, and not just because Street Fighter III wasn't the phenomenon we saw with Street Fighter II. They basically took 3 years off, and this is the best they could come up with? I mean, a lot of time and work went into this code, but it was just painfully clear that EGM needed a new joke. That brings us to 1998, where we have 2 pranks in one. The first one was to play as one of the older Bonds in GoldenEye 007 on the Nintendo 64. This was based on the rumor that Rare had snuck Sean Connery, Roger Moore, and Timothy Dalton into the game, and the code had you jumping through a lot of hoops just to get it to work. Of course, the method didn't turn out to work, but the rumors ended up being true. Rare had intended to ship the game with the vintage 007s, but they were pulled at the last minute. I guess what I'm saying is this code isn't so much funny as it is mean. Thankfully, the second code isn't as cruel, but it's also not very funny. The second joke has the review crew passing judgment on what seems to be a random camper's knife. The reactions are mixed. Crispin declares the knife to be an indispensable tool for the progress of humanity, while Dan clearly didn't understand how the device worked. I put it in my PlayStation, but all it did was skip around and stutter. I put it in my N64 and everything went blurry. I put it in my Saturn and nobody wanted to make my pocket dinnerware tools anymore. On a bright note, Sean remarked that the camper's knife has helped free him from a number of bear traps. Yeah, if a $13 gadget helps free you from a bear trap, then I think you got your money's worth. It's not comedy gold, but at least it's original. Think things can't get worse than reviewing a camper's knife? Then let me introduce you to GameShortz, the laughably dumb and yet still kind of believable clothing accessory EGM reviewed in their April 1999 issue. They're shorts that you hook up to your game system, giving you a vibration every time the game rumbles. Get it? It's a rumble pack, but only in your shorts. Your shorts are a vibrator. You hook it up to your... Okay, you know what? I think we're done here. Let's move on. In the year 2000, EGM announced the Intellivision was making a comeback. Sure, they could have gone a different way by making a joke about the millennium or something that was actually funny, but why bother when you could beat up Mattel for no reason? Apparently the new device would be DVD, have a built-in cable modem, clock in with a 1.6 GHz processor, and you know what, actually, there's literally nothing less interesting than reading off a bunch of fake specs. This is just weak. So things got a little better in 2001 thanks to EGM announcing that Sega's Neptune had been unearthed and would go on sale for $200. This was the all-in-one device that Sega planned on releasing that combined the Genesis with the 32X, but was cancelled before going into production. This last-minute update was far less outlandish than what EGM was known for, but the real tip-off is the price. If there were only 10,000 units for sale, you better believe they'd be charging more than $200. In case you're wondering, the URL was supposed to take you to an order form that revealed that the whole thing was just a hoax. Now, I don't know if they brought in new blood or just decided to have a proper brainstorming session, but 2002 was a return to form for Electronic Gaming Monthly. Here we see an article highlighting some of the enhancements coming to Super Smash Bros. Melee, including choosing a victory pose and rearranging your trophy collection. But the one that stands out is the bullet point that suggests that both Sonic and Tails would be playable characters. Now that's big news! You have to remember that the idea of Mario and Sonic starring in the same game was unheard of in 2002. It would have been like finding out that Superman and Batman saved the day in Avengers Infinity War. But what EGM didn't realize is that once again they were able to accurately predict the future. It didn't happen with Melee, but Super Smash Bros. Brawl introduced Sonic as a fighter. And don't forget about all those Mario and Sonic sports games. It's funny how things that seemed impossible at the time suddenly seem so passé. After reminding themselves that they used to be good at the whole April Fool's joke thing, EGM followed up the Smash Bros. Prank with a nude code for DOA Xtreme Beach Volleyball. This is one of the more obvious jokes, but allowed them to write the kinda sensational copy that was more akin to a men's magazine. They talked about jaw-dropping bosoms and big guns, all while calling their readers pervs and telling them to hang out on a deserted island with nobody around. This is definitely not the kind of April Fool's joke EGM would have run a decade ago. By 2004, the Lord of the Rings movies and games were a cultural phenomenon. Peter Jackson's 3 films were making hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office, and Electronic Arts was hard at work milking the franchise. But maybe this tongue-in-cheek Lord of the Rings Kart Racer was one game too far. This 2004 April Fool's joke was a testament to EGM's art team, which ended up taking the silly idea and turning it into an impressively realistic-looking racing game. It's not the funniest prank, but the artwork really sells it, and I can see it translating into a fun idea. They should make this game. Okay, so in order for EGM's April 2005 joke to make any sense, you first have to remember the uproar over the Wind Waker's art style. Longtime Zelda fans were losing their shit over the cel-shaded look, and there was this vocal minority demanding Nintendo make the game look more realistic. This EGM joke played into that demand by giving people a way to throw away their kiddie Wind Waker discs and replace it with a more adult Zelda game. To get this improved version of the game, all you had to do was reserve a copy of Twilight Princess. And then you're off to a totally manly Zelda adventure where the cel-shaded graphics are a thing of the past and real men can go on living their life without succumbing to artistic flights of fancy. Because nobody wants that. This joke hit at the exact right time. People were fed up with waiting for the oft-delayed Twilight Princess, and there was still some backlash against Nintendo's choice to present Wind Waker as a cel-shaded cartoon. I don't feel bad for the angry gamers who were tricked, but I do have some sympathy for the GameStop employees that had to explain to the knucklehead that it was only an April Fool's joke. Hey look, it's another prophetic EGM joke. In 2006, Electronic Gaming Monthly devoted a whole page to a fake portable game system from Apple. The Super System was based on Apple's hugely successful iPod series, only it was a little fatter, featured a widescreen display, had a D-pad, and offered 4 face buttons. You could hook it up to your iTunes and download music and movies, plus it had a battery you couldn't remove. EGM even listed some of the games, including a new Madden and Call of Duty sequel. Of course, months after EGM played this prank, Apple went ahead and released the iPhone, which featured, among other things, a widescreen display, the ability to sync with your iTunes, and full game support, including both Madden and Call of Duty sequels. Aside from the fake article and doctored iPod, this prank is more of an elaborate Quarterman rumor. I feel like we're talking about an April Fool's joke that isn't really a joke. It's like that movie Knowing, where Nicolas Cage figures out the exact day the world is gonna end. I love the artwork, and there's a great article here, but it's not a good April Fool's joke. So, do you remember the good old days when EGM would Photoshop Trevor Belmont into a Mutant Turtles game? Yeah, those great pranks seem to have been replaced with hand-drawn mock-ups. This is, I'm sorry to say, a poor substitute, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so disappointed in this 2007 joke. So the idea is to mash up Kingdom Hearts and the Mushroom Kingdom, two things that seemingly have nothing to do with each other but are secretly a great fit. And that's the thing, there's nothing particularly crazy about this mashup. I mean, Kingdom Hearts is already a collection of different Disney movies, so seeing Mario pop up in the game wouldn't be all that jarring. Certainly no more jarring than Tron, and that was actually in the game. This is a huge missed opportunity as far as I'm concerned, and I have a hunch that it didn't fool anybody. Now, I hate to suddenly get all serious here, but it's important to remember that you never know when your time will be up. It could be tomorrow, next month, or 50 years from now. You never know. And that's not just true in life, but also magazine publishing. If the editors at EGM knew that 2008 was going to be their final chance to pull an April Fool's joke, then I have to imagine they would have come up with something better than Lego Halo. The problem with this one-page preview is that it seems entirely too likely. Let's face it, Lego seems ready to work with pretty much anybody if it means making money. They've done Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Marvel, DC, and probably a few I'm completely forgetting about. So why not team up with a popular series like Halo? The only thing that surprises me about this prank is that it hasn't already happened. After 20 years of both good and bad April Fool's jokes, I hate that this is where Electronic Gaming Monthly left it. Had they known that this would have been the final prank, I have to imagine that they would have tried to trick us again with Sheng or brought back GameShortz. There's so much they could have done, but life isn't fair. So on this April Fool's Day, do me a favor and pour one out for Electronic Gaming Monthly. Hey, thanks for watching me recap nearly 2 decades of EGM jokes. So here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite April Fool's Day prank? It doesn't have to be video game related, but there's certainly a lot to choose from. In other news, we actually have an April Fool's Day prank ready to go for this Sunday. I can't tell you exactly how it relates to Electronic Gaming Monthly, but it does. I'm also hard at work on a bunch of reviews, including MX vs ATV All Out. If you like this video, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.